Well, after a year and some months, after losing my original YouTube channel to hackers, I'm back. What seemed like forever, uh, talking with YouTube executives online and in private messaging, trying to get the original channel back. Uh, Early this morning, I got a surprise email from Google regarding the email associated with the account that um, my account was reinstated right out of the blue. So what I'm going to do is basically keep the other channel up because two is better than one. But I will start re-uploading to the old channel, including uploading the stuff that I couldn't upload to the old channel. I'm going to upload it through the playlist of my new channel to the old channel. So I won't have to take weeks and weeks and weeks to upload all the stuff. I'll just take all the new stuff, put it on the old, and start now uploading videos here. So what better way to start it off with the interview by Joe Rogan? And this is in 2020, year 2020. He's interviewing Tim Dillon. They're talking about 9/11 here. It's not a very long video. Let's hear what they have to say.
We find out that there was a substantial cover up. We didn't know about Saudi Arabia, their involvement for a while.
For 9/11?
Yeah. Do you think it's possible that you don't know the whole story?
Let me just stop right here, right off the bat, because we did have our suspicions regarding Saudi Arabia. Now, we can't, this is the year 2020, so the counter-terror document wasn't released. Neither was Operation Encore Files. That came out a year later through Executive Order 140440. But you had the pen bomb investigation. You had the Inspector General report from the FBI. You had the Inspector General report for the CIA. So you did have documentation, historical evidence to show that there was a withholding of information regarding Saudi government operatives giving financial and logistical support to two known al-Qaeda operatives. They were known to be al-Qaeda because Saudi Arabia told the CIA about these two men, Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. Not only that, they were seen at a high-level al-Qaeda summit meeting in Malaysia in January of 2000 with the alleged planner of the coal bombing, Tawfiq bin Atash Khalad, which means, had that information been passed to the FBI would have took jurisdiction because the bombing of the coal was a federal crime. And so, when Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi came to the United States from that al-Qaeda summit meeting, the FBI had every right to detain them and arrest them for their links to the USS coal bomb. And who knows, 9/11 may have been prevented. Now, I'm not saying the CIA knew. I'm not saying the Saudis knew. But if you're Saudi Arabia and if you're Israel, you have men on the ground. Remember, Israel had their own operation going. Saudi Arabia is with the CIA. And they're on the ground with these people, living next door, even, knowing these people. You think they were talking about the operations? What do you think they were listening to? There's a lot of suspicion here, but there was evidence to show that Saudi Arabia was indeed the government at some level had knowledge about these two men. Now, whether they knew about 9/11, I'm not going to go there.
It's totally possible. Yeah. I don't have any idea what was being done or who was involved. And I know that there was a bunch of hijackers and they flew planes into those buildings, but who was behind that? Who the fuck knows?
Yeah. Joe Rogan's right. Look, remember, we have 5-4 now, once declared mentally incompetent, Ramzi bin Ashib. But Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Mustafa al-Hawsawi, Amr al-Baluchi, and Tawfiq bin Atash Khalad are the alleged masterminds and planners of the 9/11 attacks. Have yet a trial. Thank you, CIA, for fucking that up. So Joe Rogan is right here. We really don't know. I don't know shit about 9/11. Just a little, tiny bit. As to what is out there, classified, and even destroyed.
How would we know?
Great question.
What part of Saudi Arabia, where they all came from? Like where'd they get their orders from? Like how they organize this? I mean, I think they know a certain amount, and I think a certain amount they'll probably never know.
Yeah, and we'll all go to.
This is probably the best lucid Joe Rogan's been regarding 9/11. Now, he's talked about it before with other people, but I wanted to point this out because, this is absolutely correct on Rogan's part. What do we really know? Fucking jack shit. And boy, and I don't care to beg people for views. Like, this is not me trying to get to Joe Rogan to watch this video and have me on the show. I'm not begging anybody. I don't go that route. I don't need the fame and fortune because I'm not about that. I'm about getting the information out there to a wide range of audience to have enough people to come interested again that the 9/11 truth movement should have took fucking advantage of and destroyed all conversation regarding it with their crackpot theories in the hopes of having a future discussion on this subject where the perpetrators are still fucking alive. We have an active civil suit going on in the Southern District of New York. This ain't like JFK. There's some files that were released today by the Trump administration, but I want to know, listen, people who, did JFK in, they're dead. Those shooters are dead. The masterminds, maybe one or two are alive. I don't know. But 9/11 is still fresh. And yeah, it's 24 years after the fact, but we still have people that are fucking alive. And this is the conversation that should be predominant right now.
Or death not knowing.
What do you think about that one that got shot down? They've shot that Let's Roll one?
Yeah,
they shot.
Joe, if you ever watch this video, Flight 93 wasn't shot down. Now, here's a conspiracy for you, Joe. I don't have evidence for this. But what is the military chain of command, right? It's the president, then the director of Department of Defense, and then NORAD, right? Vice president's not in chain of command. So where's George Bush on 9/11? Well, he's in Air Force One, and he's having trouble communicating with people in the PI. Well, where is Donald Rumsfeld 9/11? Well, after Flight 77 crashed at the Pentagon, he's out on the lawn. He's not in the PI, the Presidential Emergency Operations Command Center or something like that. Presidential or something like that. So what does that leave with regarding a shoot down? The vice president, NORAD, but the vice president's not a part of the military chain of command. Now, for those who want to say that there might have been a stand down of sorts, and if Dick Cheney's on the phone with Cheyenne Mountain, or with someone like Colonel Kevin Despaney, or he's with, talking to Ralph Eberhart, who's on the road, or Major General Larry Arnold, or even fucking Richard Myers, Joint Chiefs of Staff. Hey, president's indisposed. Rumsfeld's not in the PIOC. We have to make a decision. Even if Dick Cheney made a decision without presidential approval or lied, well, there you have it, a conspiracy to either shoot down or order a stand down. There was no shoot down for 93 because the Cleveland Air National Guard, one of them, Heather Penny, spoke over the years about not having the authorization for a shoot down, and also that they didn't have time to put weapons on the plane. So they were going to crash their planes into Flight 93. So it wasn't shot down.
That down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they said that thing, the flight, the rubbish, the wreckage was scattered for miles.
Yeah.
Let me just talk about this issue here too, because Flight 93 was carrying, I think, 28,000 pounds of mail. Okay. Planes are made out of nylon, light material, aluminum. And so when you see that one video of the rising fireball, right? There's that one video the guy shot on the freeway. I forgot the name of the freeway. He shoots, when the plane crashed into the ground. You see this big, gigantic plume of smoke because the plane is going 450 miles an hour with 38,000 pounds of jet fuel. The explosion is fucking enormous. It's like a bomb, a huge, bunker bomber, or the Moab bomb, right? Mother of all bombs. So just imagine all that fuel just shooting up into the air with the force the energy, the kinetic energy that came out from the ground right up into the air. Now, light objects are going to fly in the air. Mail, paper, nylon, aluminum, all that's going to be shooting up into the air for miles. And you can see that smoke just travel over Lake, I think it was Indian Lake or something like that, name of the lake there. And that's where they found pieces of the plane, like the light people, but the heavier parts, such as the turbofan, the fuselage, that was found at the crater. So just not to get it mixed up.
There's no way they didn't shut that down. But there's a lot of things about that day where you look back at it and you go, this is just weird.
Yeah.
It's weird that a building fell that wasn't hit by anything. It's just weird. I'm not saying it can't happen, but that's odd.
It's definitely odd.
That's
odd. The way it looks is odd. It looks like a controlled demolition. But
yeah,
if you watch the full version, there's a guy who used to be like a full-on 9/11 truther, and then he started
then the CIA
paying
started
attention.
Paying him. Yeah,
and he started just paying attention to the flaws in his way of thinking.
Sure.
And one of the things that he found out was that the version of Tower 7 that most people see is a version that's very quick. It implodes and it just falls down. But for minutes before that, you can watch the center of the thing collapse inside of it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Look. Again, I know my limitations. And I tell people I'm not an expert on 9/11. I'm a student. I know very little about 9/11 itself. And one thing I wish if I had to do it again, I was study about, the trade centers themselves, engineering. I'm terrible with math and engineering. Okay. There are far more qualified people that talk about this issue than me. So I'd rather leave it up to the experts to talk about this issue, because people have always asked me over the years, how come you don't talk about building 1, 2, and 7? Because, what do you care about my opinion? Nothing about anything. You shouldn't. Okay, it's one thing to opine about something and then, and just say that as that. I don't, one thing I'm a stickler for is that I want to share information, pertinent information, tangible, something you could do, something that's, that can be used in a court of law. That's called knowledge. And I believe, and, call me naive, but I believe that power belongs in the hands of the people, and power is information, knowledge. And that's what I want to try and pass off regarding this particular subject, 9/11. That's it. I'm it's only by the grace of God I can wipe myself at this age. But nevertheless, right, I like to impart knowledge because I want to educate my audience properly. Okay? Because I still believe, and that we can hold certain people accountable for the attacks on 9/11. So when I speculate, I say I'm speculating, and I don't like to mislead my audience. Now, there's far too many 9/11 truthers over the years that use speculation as a form of evidence, thereby misleading their audience to thinking, oh, this is exactly what happened, and it's not.
Have you ever seen that version?
I've never seen that version.
Pull up the
Can we see that one?
version. Yeah, it's very interesting. Full version of Tower 7 collapsing.
Yeah.
See if you can find one that includes
because the 9/11 people
center.
get so crazy. They're like, there were no buildings. It's all holograms. There were no planes. New York doesn't exist. It's nuts.
Yeah.
But I want to see the uncut Building 7. Because maybe
a plane hit the Pentagon.
I mean,
so.
Well, okay, but just release. I just want to see one video of it happening.
Right.
See, now, Tim Dillon, this is where I have a bone to pick with you, right? If you ever watch this video, I doubt it, right? Where's the video of the Titanic sinking? Where's the video of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln? Where's the video of, I don't know, the bombing of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, right? We know it took place, right? We don't need video to know what happened in certain events of history. Why? Because we could talk to people that were living in those periods. Now, over the years, there's been over 120. I want to say about 120. There's a list by John Judge, the late John Judge, and Penny Schroner, regarding interviews with people over the years regarding them being at the Pentagon and witnessing the event. There was over 120 people they named, right? So it's not like we need a video to know what happened at the Pentagon. We see the plane debris there. We have eyewitness testimony. We have radar of the plane taking off out of Dallas, crashing into the Pentagon. So we have all this technological data, technical data, analytical data, and human data. And this is what I mean about the scientific method being that it's got to be first and foremost before making a charge of saying that the government or Israel did 9/11. Well, what evidence do you have to show for this? Right? So, yeah, Tim Dillon, that's my bone to pick with you. I didn't need to know. I didn't need video to know what happened at the Pentagon. I already know. So do you. But you may not, 9/11 may not be your area of interest. So I can understand.
Just show me one video.
Do you think they have a video? Is
There's
there some
80
weird
cameras
video
on the Pentagon. Just show me one video of it happening. I
Isn't
think
there
it probably
one video
happened.
of a plane hitting the Pentagon?
You know, talk about the video of, you know, there's more evidence of the planes crashing at the Pentagon Shanksville than there is for New York, right? What does New York have? All the video. But what New York doesn't have is the plane debris. No black boxes, no large pieces of the plane. One part of the engine from Flight 175 found on Church and Vesey. But that wasn't the case with the Pentagon and Shanksville. Pentagon and Shanksville, and with the Pentagon, let's start with the Pentagon. You had the flight data recorder that survived. The cockpit voice recorder was found, but it was too damaged. They found seats, they found fuselage, they found both turbofans of the engines. They found, you know, plane debris of American Airlines. And Shanksville, they found both black boxes. The cockpit voice recorder, the flight data recorder, that was working. They found both turbofans, one full engine that was at the impact crater. Fuselage. Even parts of United Airlines badges that were found. So there was more evidence of the plane crashes at Shanksville, Pentagon, than there was in New York. That's why this whole video nonsense is ridiculous. And by the way, the Pentagon, the area of the Pentagon, where there was cameras on top, they weren't functioning. Why? Because that area of the Pentagon was under renovation through what was called the Pentagon Renovation Project, headed by Lee Evey, that began in the 90s. And that was the last wedge. There's 5 wedges. Wedge 1 was the last to be renovated.
There's one, but it's very weird. The frames are very weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Just show me the video. I want to believe a plane hit the Pentagon.
The rover on the fucking moon is taking beautiful video.
This is what I'm saying. This is the problem.
This is my problem, is that, you know, I don't know if Rogan realizes this, but, you know, I'm sure he does. He's got to. But millions of people are watching Rogan. He's the most watched podcast on the face of the earth, right? And he knows that there's crazy conspiracies involving 9/11. Just by saying this, he's lending credence to the fact that, hey, maybe a plane didn't really hit the Pentagon. Now, he's not saying it outright, but he's alluding to that fact by saying, hey, look, we got great video of the lunar rover on the moon than we do at the Pentagon. Not realizing that, yes, there was more money spent on that camera because that's what it was shot for, and it had to be specifically designed to exist on the moon, as opposed to just a security camera that was meant to shoot cars coming into the entrance of the Pentagon. It's 2 different types of cameras. I'm not an expert on cameras, but it doesn't take a rocket science to know that you would have far better equipment regarding the moon in terms of a camera than you will regarding a security camera video that's pointing down to the road.
Fucking camera. You imagine if you have some shit that's like 1,000 times worse than like one of them doorbell cameras.
Yeah,
they got 1,000 times worse, and it's viewing the goddamn Pentagon.
They're putting it together from cell phone cameras. I understand that technology was different. Just show me a video of a plane hitting the Pentagon, and I'm good. I'm with you.
What do you think? It could be a missile?
I don't know, but I just
people. That's where there's a French crackpot named Thierry Masson who spread this theory that a missile impacted the Pentagon. Now, let me cater to the general public. You're the planners of the 9/11 attacks, and you're going to use a missile to shoot at the Pentagon and say it was a plane. When this is a ridiculous idea, because you would think that by shooting a missile into the one area of the world where people can discern pretty clearly and quickly between a missile and a plane, which would be people who work in the Department of Defense. Now, I say again, would it be really ridiculous to shoot a missile into the one area of the world where they could discern between a plane and a missile? I would think so. But what happened was Thierry Meyssan basically proved to the world that 9/11 truth movement was compromised by a bunch of idiots like Alex Jones and Jim Fetzer and Richard Gage and Barbara Honegger and Pilots for 9/11 Truth himself that propagated this theory that no plane crashed in the Pentagon, and it actually fractured the movement. This one instance, this one particular area of the 9/11 spectrum. Can you believe that?
I want to know why there's no one video. We got to see a video. Isn't that crazy? Why am I crazy for saying, can I just see one video of the thing happening that you said happened?
Well, did you know that maybe this is not true, and Jamie's going to be checking this one out soon.
Listen.
The area in the Pentagon that got hit
was refortified.
What?
It's not that you're crazy, Tim. It's irresponsible, because whether you realize it or not, you're alluding to the fact that a plane may have not crashed in the Pentagon. And what this will end up doing is this one theory, this conspiracy theory, will blanket the actual conspiracies relating to this incident regarding Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, regarding 6 hijackers in the plane instead of 5, regarding the CIA and the NSA knowing about Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi that were inside the United States in the year 2000. It didn't tell the FBI or State Department about this because they were running an illegal operation with Saudi intelligence, monitoring these 2 men that have links with the Cole bomber. Now, I noticed that you didn't talk about that because you probably don't know it, but this theory of no plane crash in the Pentagon, well, if there's no plane crash in the Pentagon, there is no Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. So now that conspiracy has disappeared. The actual conspiracy and the false conspiracies propped up. That's what I have a problem with.
Was the same area where they were doing the accounting?
Yeah.
Where they were trying to figure out where the $1 trillion is missing that Rumsfeld was talking about?
First of all, the money wasn't missing, it was simply not allocated properly. This, by the way, for everyone that wants to know about this, Google Pentagon finances don't add up. Pentagon finances don't add up. It was an article written by the Associated Press in March, I think, 13th of 2000, regarding an internal audit by the Department of Defense regarding the misallocation of funds. Now, we all know the Department of Defense, waste is the biggest waste spender on the face of the earth, spending billions and billions of dollars on missiles and drugs and jeeps and what have you. Now, you have separate machines meant for a separate allocation of finances to where say, office supplies, private military industrial complexes, corporations like Raytheon and Boeing and LG3 Technologies and what have you, spending, annual spending, fiscal spending, and fiscal budgets, right, regarding office personnel, defense personnel, State Department, defense intelligence agency personnel, right? All of this had separate areas of machines that, properly allocate these funds. Now, they ran an audit. Now, the audit, I think, covered like the last 20 years. And that's where the $2.3 trillion came from. Now, Donald Rumsfeld on September 10th was at some military function or committee or something like that. And this was brought up regarding the current audit. Now, the True Movement basically said, oh, Donald Rumsfeld spilled the beans. Now, Donald Rumsfeld's not stupid. Why would he fucking announce that the money was stolen on the day before the attacks, which would actually cover up the crime? Right? Wouldn't make sense. So there's not a big conspiracy here because this didn't stop the investigation. It just paused it. And now, instead of 2.3 trillion, I think it's like 25 trillion misallocation of funds. It's worse now.
On camera, I think the day before, right? Wasn't he?
It's an interesting situation.
Didn't he say that there's like missing money? Like they're trying to figure out.
Wasn't Rumsfeld like out on the lawn? Like these people are, what are they doing?
They're just doing.
See, they don't realize They're so close to talking about what might be a big conspiracy, right? Now, again, I don't have evidence for this, but remember the shoot down chain of command I was talking about? Rumsfeld's out on the lawn. Bush is in Air Force One, can't get in direct contact with the PEOC. Who's in the PEOC? Dick Cheney, Louis Libby, Condoleezza Rice, Cheney's wife, the Department of Transportation, NORAD. He's on the phone with fucking NORAD. Who's he on the phone with? Is he on the phone with Major General Larry Arnold, Major General Ralph Eberhard, or the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Richard Myers? And if you want to talk about a stand down or a shoot down order, halting, remember, there wasn't a shoot down order clear until 10:36 a.m., but by then all the planes had crashed. But if we're going to talk about a stand down order, maybe. Well, Dick Cheney is not part of the military chain of command. And if he got word from Bush regarding a shoot down order, well, guess what? That didn't come till 10:36, so he's lying. So there's a conspiracy. I can't prove this, by the way. But they're so close to talking about a conspiracy regarding a shoot down or a stand down order. And yet they don't even realize it.
Not in a bunker, you're out on the lawn. I don't know what happened. I mean, listen.
It was something crazy, like trillions of dollars.
2.3.
2.3 trillion.
Oh my God.
I mean, you know.
And so the next day, to see if that's true, that area of the Pentagon that held the accounting.
Yeah, it was true, but it's not what you think it is, Joe Rogan. And, that's the end of the video, right? I'm not begging Joe Rogan to go to show. I would love to talk with him about 9/11. If it's not me, if I'm not popular enough or I'm not, knowledgeable enough, there's others like out there, like Abby Martin, Robbie Martin, John Gold, Nelson Martins, they're Leonardo Salvaggio. And of course the up and comers like Ben and Eric from Project New American Century, Sean Russell, Darren Harvey, Jonathan Bellasort. There's people out there. But if you want like a big name, somebody who's more established than myself, that's good. Have somebody reputable to get up there and talk about 9/11, because all I'm about is getting the information out there to the people anyway. And we need a grown-up to basically talk about the real issues like Pent Bomb, like Operation Encore, the Counter-Terror Document, the Gerald Shea Memorandum, right? Talk about these issues. How about the Ahmed al-Hada Hub, Al-Qaeda Communications Hub in Yemen, which the NSA and CIA have been monitoring since 1996, 5 years prior to 9/11. Do you think they were talking about the embassy bombings or the 9/11 attacks? I don't know, but nobody talks about these issues. Lastly, this is some sad news. A very dear personal friend of mine had passed away earlier this morning, last night. His name was Dan Kelly. I knew Dan Kelly for most of his life. And I saw him grow up to be a teenager to a young man. And he was a behemoth. He was a giant among men at 6'6", 330 pounds. But he wasn't like out of shape until, many years later. Here is a guy who could basically play football and was good in basketball. And I played against him. And back then I was very skinny and tall. I'm 6'10", but I'm heavier now than I was then. And back then I think I was like 180. So I was a toothpick compared to him. But he was a great guy. And I loved him very deeply. And he was very sick. And, about the time I lost my channel for YouTube is the last time I saw him, and he was a shell of himself. And I knew he was sick. And I got word from one of my best friends, and that he had passed away last night. And I know he's not going to have a funeral. He died in poverty, and most of his family are dead, with the exception of his son, who lives in Pennsylvania, who's a college graduate from Penn State, and his father would be very proud of him, and I know he was. And so this tribute is for him and him alone. And I was very fortunate to have him in my life when he did, a great man as he is. And I just want to say that I love him very deeply, and I'm going to miss him. Okay, that's it for the time being. Hey, listen, I'll be uploading to the old channel once again. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody.